Hello, everyone, and welcome to AGO at Home, our new digital platform. My name is Bojana Stancic, and I am the Assistant Curator, Live Projects and Performance at the Art Gallery of Ontario. Even though we may be meeting in the virtual world, I would still like to acknowledge that the Art Gallery of Ontario operates on land that is the territory of the Anishinaabe Mississauga Nation and was also the territory of the Wendat and Haudenosaunee. The Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant is an agreement between Haudenosaunee Confederacy and the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. Toronto is also governed by a treaty between the federal government of Canada and the Mississauga of the New Credit. In terms of our program today, this is our inaugural contribution from the AGO archives, and we chose to open with a documentation of AGO live performance of Grandmother Mago, staged in Walker Court on January 15th and 16th, 2020. Grandmother Mago is a work by artist Zadia Xa that had its Canadian premiere with us at the start of the year, bringing together live acoustic drumming, dance, costumes, and painted sculptural elements. This processional performance explores overlapping identities, fictional family histories, and the transference of ancestral knowledge through matrilineal social structures. It was performed by and devised with Iris Chan, Mary Feliciano, Jayu Korti, Jie Kim, and Yumino Seki, with masks by Benito Mayor Vallejo, and it was originally presented at the Venice Biennale 2019, co-produced with Dauphine Foundation and commissioned by Arts Council England. Today, we're super lucky to have Zadia join us from London and allowing us to check in with her now. Hi, Zadia.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good. So lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us.
No worries. It's nice to see you too.
Zadia, even though so much of the world is in shutdown, there is an amazing piece of news that I wanted to congratulate you on. You are one of this year's recipients of the Sobi Art Awards.
Yes, one of the 25 long list artists. So yes, very lucky, very fortunate. There's never been a better time to be longlisted. So I'm very, very grateful and really, really genuinely appreciative. And I think what they've done has been really amazing, and the support will go a long way. And ultimately, I think that these competitions, whilst I'm really competitive myself, ultimately I think these hierarchies that are flattened out, it's just much more better for artists and the production of creative producers everywhere.
I mean, to be honest, in the sea of sort of really disastrous news all across the world, there was like one of those shining lights that made everybody feel amazing and great. And I just like looked at it with such sort of awe to sort of see so many names that just sort of really deserve it to be called out and to be rewarded. So it was a good piece of news. And I just wanted to say congratulations sort of officially.
Thank you very much.
Oh, pleasure. So Zadia, as I was sort of talking to you beforehand, we put together a few questions in mind and in an effort to help kind of contextualize the now before remember the then, because after this conversation, we'll be launching into the video documentation of the performance from January. So do you mind if I ask you now and you can share some of your insights with our audiences?
Sure, go ahead.
Cool.
I'm not going anywhere.
And none of us are. So the first question, time being so material to kind of performance and also feels so elastic right now, is super sort of straightforward. Can you tell us how long you've been in self-isolation as of today?
You know, I think like most artists, I'm used to kind of being alone or being with my partner in the studio for months on end. So I've actually been in self-isolation since the end of February. I think the official London lockdown wasn't until, midway through March, but I had basically been sequestered away since late February. So I just kind of transitioned from that into just, having to actually stay indoors indefinitely. So.
Have you been counting the days, or is it more about this is sort of like the time period I finished a project and now I've been sort of in studio?
It's not that I'm counting the days, daily, let's say, but it's a weird thing because time is passing by really quickly in a way that I'm not used to, because normally when time goes by quickly, it's because I feel like I have a deadline coming up and I'm stressed out and I'm trying to kind of I guess do as much as I can in minimal amount of hours. Whereas now I feel like days are going by really fast, but I'm kind of not I feel like I'm not doing as much because I'm obviously sat in front of the computer most days. And yeah, just feeling like the days are blending into one another. So I'm fine, but yeah, it's I guess it's strange. I didn't realize until I kind of thought about that question. Like the end of February is a long time to not really be going out and doing anything, even really grocery shopping. So yeah.
Yeah, it really has sort of become sort of stretched in a very particular way. So
Hmm.
understood. Second question, what would you be doing right now if there wasn't a global pandemic?
I'm very boring. So I would be doing something very similar, but I'd be in my studio and I'd be kind of, on in full production mode for an exhibition. And I'd probably be really, really stressed out and drinking many cans of Red Bull. So I think in many ways, this has actually been like a fortuitous time for me because I've actually, had to slow my body down, whether I wanted to or not. So it's been good for me to just kind of, yeah, take time and take kind of stock of the present moment, which I never, ever do.
Beautiful. I mean, global pandemic has such a negative ring, but at the same time, like there is opportunity for reflection and sort of like pacing that
Mm.
feels a little more organic to everybody. Okay. A lot of the time during this lockdown, I think for me and I think for a lot of artists, thinking through sort of like what a material kind of experience of artwork and what a virtual experience of the artwork is there an artwork that you miss seeing in person? And if so, which one?
I mean, to be really honest with you, no. And it's not because I don't miss seeing work or being in spaces where I'm, lucky enough to be around objects or images that have been made, hundreds of years ago. But I think it's probably because I assume that I will be able to see artwork sometime in the future. I mean, just as you say that to me now, I mean, I've not been to Spain. I've not been to Madrid for a few years, and I used to live there. And one of the paintings I used to really love seeing was Hieronymus Bosch's uh, "The World of Earthly Light." Sorry, I'm thinking about the title in a different language. And that's my favorite painting, and I've not seen that in, I guess, like 5 years now. And I think if I were to be told like you'd never be able to see art ever again, then I would be, really, really disappointed, sad. But I guess I have that hope that, in a few months, maybe a year's time, I will be able to go there. So, but if that was the one work that I would say that kind of really inspires me all the time, yeah, it's Hieronymus Bosch's "The World of Earthly Delights."
And that's at the Prado, yeah?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Um, Music sort of featured so prominently in your performance, and
Mm-hmm.
just right now, is there a piece of music that you can share with our audiences that you're sort of really into, or something that has sort of helped you in the lockdown kind of like domestic mode?
Um, I think right now I'm like in the process of working on a new exhibition and just a new project. So I needed to kind of really get into the zone or be thinking about writing. And I think one of the things that I've stumbled upon is actually to be immersed in music that you're not familiar with. So I've been listening to a lot of electronica and like ambient music, which I really like, but I don't know a lot about. And Grimes actually made like a playlist. I'm not sure when she put it out, but it's called Sci-Fi for Babies with Grimes, and it's just like a compilation of, I guess, things that she thought would be appropriate for pregnant people to be listening to whilst they were, I don't know, chilling out. And I like that. I think generally speaking, my musical taste like lean towards like 90s hip hop. So I have been listening to a lot of instrumentals because I can't listen to music with words when I'm trying to brainstorm because I get really caught up in the lyrics. So I've been listening to a lot of Jay Dilla, a lot of Madlib, and his projects that he did like under the guise of Quasimodo, and listening to a lot of MF Doom's instrumentals under his Metal Fingers, like a pseudonym, whichever you like. It's all from like the early 2000s, late 90s. But yeah, those are the instrumentals that I've been listening to whilst kind of just like reading or trying to kind of, I guess, get myself into that mode of writing or creativity, which at the moment it's been difficult.
I mean, that sort of leads into the next question, because I think that sort of concentration has changed during this time, like
Mm.
quite a bit, and maybe for you as well. Have you been reading, and have you been reading anything specifically?
Yeah, I'm always, reading bits here and there. And generally speaking, I don't have a lot of time to read physical books. So this is the first time I've actually been able to kind of sit down and try to read a couple of novels or, actually look through the books that I actually buy. But I still do listen to audiobooks because it's something that I enjoy doing while I'm cooking. So one of the books I just finished on Audibles is Ocean Vuong's book, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which I really love. And it's really nice because he's actually obviously reading the book to you, and he's just a really, really sensitive storyteller. So I've really enjoyed that. I think my favorite book that I'm reading at the moment was recommended to me by a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, and an artist, Evan Ifakoya. Another artist, Joe Nami, suggested this author's Instagram to me last year whilst I was working on the project with the orcas. And her name is Alexis Pauline Gums. And her book is this one. It's called Dub Finding Ceremony. And it's the most beautiful book I feel like I've read in a really long time. I find it really inspiring. Her Instagram, when my friend Joe recommended it to me, I think she was really interested in cetaceans and marine mammals. And so she was writing all these really, deeply intricate kind of poetic, I guess, narratives below each post of each like photo of an animal. And I just found it really, really inspiring. So I got this book last year. I think most people have read it, Emergent Strategy. I need to finish it still. It's by Adrienne Marie Brown. She's great. So I've got quite a few things here because I brought them from the studio. I listened to this on Audibles as well by Donna Haraway, Staying with the Trouble. So this has been really nice for me. I have a hard time concentrating. So if I listen to an audiobook and then have it in hand, reading it as well, it's easy for me. I think a lot of people are reading this at the moment. This is really nice.
What is it?
Larry Mitchell. So it's called The Faggots and Their Friends Between Revolutions. So this book is from 1972, I think. It's really, really brilliant, and it's got amazing illustrations by Ned Asta. And so she was a friend of the author, so she illustrated his book. And then two of the kind of like, I guess like a young adult or teenage kind of fiction books I've read. I'm not sure if this is young adult, but I'm old, so anything. It felt young to me, but this is okay. This is what I read, Princess Bari. And then I'm trying to finish this. This is by Yuha Lee, and it's called Dragon Pearl, and it's kind of like a Korean space opera, sci-fi, kind of like teenage science fiction novel, which I'm trying to get into. I'm almost finished. What I really appreciate actually about this book is I've never read a book where the author has been able to so seamlessly weave in narratives of non-binary characters into it where it's not a thing. So I thought that, this book is, I think this book is really special because of that, and it probably would appeal to a lot of teenagers. If I had a kid, I would definitely recommend them to read this book. So if you have any young teenagers that want to get into interesting science fiction where there's an interesting female protagonist, I would choose this one.
Well, I'm certainly hoping AJ from Home has like a wide reach of audiences, so somebody will benefit for sure. Oh my God, that sounds like an amazing premise. Incredible. So finally, as you were sort of like alluding to, and basically the entire tone of our conversation, we are grappling with a lot of various feelings, some confusing and sort of all unprecedented. Is there anyone or anywhere that you go to advice?
I tend to be really reclusive a lot of times, and I don't often really like to talk about my personal deep feelings with a lot of people, even like friends of mine. So I think what's been good about this is that if I have felt anxiety or felt like I needed to talk to someone, obviously talk to my partner Benito, but outside of that, talking to friends and actually making the time to, have a chat with them on the phone or like, FaceTime, which, I never normally do because I'm always really busy. And most of my friends are also visual artists who are incredibly busy as well. And, I don't see as often as I'd like. So I have been checking in with them much more often than I normally would. But I think for me to get, some type of peace of mind, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I think in the beginning when I was feeling really kind of unsure about what was going on, I'd actually listen to a lot of CBC. I would listen to, I think it's called the Front Burner. It is like podcast where they just talk about basically, you know, how people are dealing with COVID all over Canada, which was really great. At the same time, you know, it wasn't a direct reflection of my own reality because I'm living in London. I think I've probably just become a little bit, you know, maybe cynical or, you know, just mistrusting what's being disseminated here. So just usually talking to my friends or just kind of keeping it in. But yes, if I feel like I need to hear kind of like sound advice of the things that this is straight and narrow, I've been listening to the CBC or listening to Hidden Brain on NPR, which I enjoy a lot.
Is the CBC a little bit of a nostalgia, kind of coded in nostalgia a little bit for you?
I definitely, I think so. I mean, it's awkward to say this because this is like for a Canadian institution, but I do really love the CBC. I listen to a lot of podcasts on there. I talked to another good friend of mine, also Canadian, also someone who was a really big CBC nerd when we were younger. And we both agreed that we've just gravitated much more to American public radio because we've enjoyed it more. Maybe they've managed to wrap, you know, certain subjects in a way that's a bit more palatable or entertaining in some ways. But what I do like about the CBC is that although some of the programs, you know, maybe veer on a bit of the dry side, at the same time, I don't feel like things are as manipulated as, you know, other news outlets are. So I tend to go towards that. But, you know, you're right. It probably is a nostalgic thing. You know, grew up with it as a kid. So thinking that was kind of the voice of reason. So.
Amazing. Zadia, thank you so much for your time and like for allowing us to kind of peer into your world and life. I was super excited and deeply honored to have been able to work with you in January, and I'm so excited to revisit this performance and its video documentation. So as we're launching into that, I just want to say thank you so much again for joining us and participating, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Hopefully we'll see you soon again too. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Bye.
Thank you. To see the full documentation of Grandmother Margot performance at the Art Gallery of Ontario, please visit our YouTube channel. The link will be below.